Hey, what's up, guys? This is James Vance, photographer, videographer, and graphic artist. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys how to touch up your portraits. So, just a light touch up. We're not going to go into super detail. Probably do that in another video, but I'm just going to show you guys how I smoothen out the skin, but also keeping it looking realistic. And what I mean by that is, so I have two examples that I did prior to this video. Um, So here's the first one, right? Here's the first one where I airbrush the skin, and as you can tell, it just looks fake, right? Like it's way too smooth. It looks like a doll skin or something like that. And this is how you don't want to touch up your photos. Now, airbrushing, has a time and a place, but you never want to overdo it. You never want to overdo your photo touch ups or anything like that. So if I lower the opacity, it starts to look a little better. So you see your before and your after, right? So you can airbrush it, then bring down the opacity, and that'll make it look a little bit, more normalized or real. Um, but I recommend you do it like this, and this is the second result of how you should do it, which is this one, right? It looks natural. You still see the pores in the skin. It just looks natural, right? The skin looks even. You see these highlights over here are a little harsh for my liking, and then they're just smoothing out, right? So I'm going to be showing you guys how to touch up your photos, right? How to get rid of blemishes and things like that, but also without overdoing it. So with further ado, we're going to get started. So what you want to do, you always want to keep your background layer, right? So you're not, you always want to make a copy so you're not making any destructive edits or changes, and then you can't go back. So what we're going to do is duplicate this 3 times. And we're not even going to use this layer down here, which is our original background layer. So we're going to use this one, right? And we're just going to name it O, right, for original. So if I zoom in, by the way, this is a photo that I took of my assistant. She helps me out on shoots and things like that. Her name is Alea. I'll have her Instagram in the description. I have her Instagram in the description. But you know, for the most part, this is a beautiful girl. She has, fairly, decent. She has fairly good skin. And when we zoom in, we see, some small little blemishes, small little bumps and things like that. So the first thing I do before I start smoothing in the skin is I want to kind of get rid of those, the little bumps, scars, or whatever it may be. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my spot. I'm going to go to my spot healing tool, right? So I'm just pressing down. It's this first tool, right? Spot healing brush tool. You can make this, bigger or smaller with the brackets. I keep it on content aware. And so what we're gonna do, so like we have a little bump here. If we just go over that, it's gone. So I'm just gonna do this all throughout the photo and get rid of the small imperfections like little bumps, um, and things like that. Okay, so now we've touched up the photo. I'm just gonna show you guys the before and the after. So here's the before and then the after. Right, so we just remove like the little bumps, little blemishes, and imperfections. Like this right here, you wouldn't want to get rid of this right here or get rid of this right here, right? That's just her, you know. You don't want to get rid of things that are natural, right? Like a mole or anything like that. If that's, even sometimes even scars, you may even want to keep a scar if it's like on their face or something, because that's a part of them, right? You don't want to hide something that's super distinct about their look. So we've cleaned up the skin. We cleaned up the skin, and actually we're gonna delete these because we want to actually duplicate the layer that we just edit right with the skin. So we're gonna duplicate that twice. We're gonna name this old copy. We're gonna name that blur. We're gonna name this layer texture. We're gonna turn off our texture layer. The blur layer, you're gonna do exactly what it says is blur. So we're gonna go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur. And you wanna blur your photo enough to where it's blurry, but you still have the detail in the photo. And so for me, 10, this right here is pretty good. You can move the slider back and forth to get the type of blur you want. I'm gonna do 10. It's gonna differ based on your photo. So then we're gonna use texture. We're gonna turn on our texture layer. We're gonna go to image, apply image. Right. What you want to do? You want to make sure your scale is 2 and your offset is 128. Um, Personally, I really don't know why those numbers are it, but in the photography world, what we're doing is called frequency. The technique that we're doing is called frequency separation, and those are just the values that you want to use. I didn't make up the values. Somebody else already did the work. Years ago, and these are just the numbers that you use when using frequency separation. You're free to alter them or change them if you want, if you need to, whatever you want to do. But 99.9% of the time, these are the values. And so you want to change your layer to blur. So you're changing your layer. So you're basically telling this, you're applying. So basically, what you're doing, you're applying this blur image to this image, right? So you're telling this texture image to apply this blur image to itself to reference that image, right? They're the same images, but you're kind of referencing off one. And if you see, you get this grayed out look. It looks like a high pass filter, and that's basically what it is, right? You want to have your blending mode to subtract. Keep your opacity at 100, and everything goes the same. Just make sure this your scale is 128. Change this layer to change layer to your blur layer, and we're gonna hit OK. All right, now you're gonna change your texture layer to linear light, and now we get our original photo, and it looks like we've done nothing, right? And it's because that high pass filter is actually blending with our image. And if you look, if you look, it even looks a little sharper. So if I turn this layer off, well, I'm gonna hide this blur layer, and you can see now it's sharper, right? So that high pass filter acts like a sharpener, and so basically the thing of this is this texture layer is sharper because it's holding all the texture, right? If we were airbrushing our photo, we would just be painting on top of the skin, right? When you use frequency separation and you have your texture layer and your blur layer, you're kind of blow you're kind of smoothing under the skin, if that makes any sense. Hypothetically, you're like smoothing under the skin. So on our blur layer, we're going to smoothen out the skin. So we're going to use our brush tool. We're going to use our mixer brush tool. And just I'm going to give you guys an example with the mixer brush tool does. So I'm going to hide both of these layers. I'm going to create a new layer. But the mixer brush tool, if you guys never used it, it's a beautiful way of blending your colors and things like that. So if let's say if I wanted to make like under her eyes a little brighter, I can sample this color here, and then I can kind of just get under that eye, right? So you see how I'm making that brighter, and it's blending really, really well. So if I hide this and bring it back, it's there, but it's really, really subtle. Well, actually, it's not there because I have this cut off. So now, now let me do it. So I'm gonna sample this, and I'm gonna paint really light under it. So now you see it. So the blend, and my flow is a little high also, so I can take that down. But that's just showing you guys how this works. Like if it kind of just helps you, it kind of just helps you blend things together. And of course, in a real editing situation, I would take more time and do things like that. And you would more so airbrush with that tool because it works flawlessly. But basically, so we're gonna turn these two layers back on, and on our blur layer, we're gonna use our mixer brush tool, and we're gonna hit this right here, this button with the paintbrush, and it has a cross through it. And when we select that, you see that we have this opacity background. We have no color, and that's because we're not necessarily trying to add color, right? We're not necessarily trying to blend. We're not trying to use a color to blend our photos. We kind of just trying to smoothen out her natural skin tones and things like that. So we don't need any color, right? So we're gonna, and I'm gonna turn this up a little bit. So as I go over the skin, and I'm not trying to be perfect here, it's just for the sake of this video, but as you see me going across the skin, and you can use the brackets to make your brush bigger or smaller if you didn't know that. But if you see me lightly going across the skin, I'm gonna zoom in. Typically when I edit photos, I'll probably be like right here, right? Sometimes it's easier to look at the photo further away than close up, right? When editing, so you can see more far away than closer, if that makes sense. But you see, we have a lot of texture here, right? But it's a little blotchy, and I kind of just want to blend this together and smoothen it out. So if I take my brush, you can see how very subtly this is smoothing itself out. The skin tones are kind of blending together. And when I show you guys the before and after, you'll really see like what it's doing. Like in the moment, you probably can't tell that much, but when you see the before and after, you'll really see the difference that this technique is making. So we've touched up this photo, and you can just see how the skin just looks a little bit smoother, also somewhat a little bit sharper. So let's look at the before and after, right? So I'm gonna group these, my texture and blur layer, I'm gonna group those together, right? Disregard, these are the two layers that I showed you guys at the beginning of the video, so disregard those, right? You should have your background layer, which we're not using, our that layer that we duplicated and we just named it O as the original, and then this group is our frequency separation layer that we just edited. So this is the before, and this is the after. So you see the difference, right? We still have the texture. So this is the before, this is the after, the before and the after. And we can go in and do a lot more different things, but this is just the introduction to how I retouch my photos. Like I said, you can go on YouTube and watch other videos, and you'll see a lot of photographers using this same method. This is kind of like the industry standard. The method is called frequency separation, and this is how I just go about editing my photos for the most part. Of course, I do a lot of other things, but this is it, right? And so when I was saying we don't necessarily want to get you don't want to over airbrush your photo or anything like that. But what I'm going to do is, because I have this highlight right here and I don't like it that much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a layer in between these two. I'm still on my mixer brush tool, but now we're going to use some color. And I'm going to sample the surrounding colors, probably like this right here. And I'm just going to paint a very light layer around that, right? And even around here. And I'm just sampling the colors around here. Right? I can zoom out and that looks unnatural. So we just want to blend it. Then we can take down the opacity. So this is with it completely off. And this is with it on just a little bit. Just to kill that highlight just a little bit because it's a little too bright for my liking. And like I said, and that may look good, it may not look good to some, but one of the things about editing is just experimenting. But here's our before and our after. So before, after, and that's how I edit my. That's how I touch up. That's one way of how I touch up my photos to get a smooth, um, to get a smooth, just get smooth even, just to get smooth even skin. This is how I touch up my photos. So I'm just gonna do a quick run through for you guys, just in case you didn't catch on. Right. So we have our original layer. We duplicate it. We duplicate it 3 times. Right. We're gonna change this layer to blur. We're gonna change this layer to texture. Right. We're gonna turn this layer off. We're gonna blur our blur layer. Right. Go to blur. Go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and blur that layer. You can't see it because my textures are layers on, but yeah, we blurred that layer. Right, on our texture layer, we're going to go to image, apply image. We want to make sure this is set to blur. We want to make sure layer is set to blur, which is this layer. We're on this layer, but we're applying this layer to this layer. Your scale is going to be 2, your offset is going to be 128. Subtract, hit OK. We're going to set this. We're going to set our texture layer to linear light. You're going to select your blur layer. You're going to select your mixer brush tool. You want to hit this. First you want to hit this, then this. And you want to make sure this looks like this. So that means you have no color selected. And then you're just going to smoothen out your skin. Alright, you're just going to go through your photo and smoothing out your skin however you feel. And that's how I touch on my photos, and that is called frequency separation. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. There's going to be more coming, more details on how you can edit photos, manipulate photos, and just get the results that you can get from this channel. It's not going to be any groundbreaking things, but I just want to share my knowledge and teach you guys how to perfect your photos and just get them to the level that you want to get them to. Please like, comment, subscribe, give me your feedback on what you think I should do next. My presentation when I'm entering my videos or whatever, just give me your feedback. I really appreciate it. Once again, like, comment, and subscribe. Check out my Instagram. Thank you so much, and I hope I was able to help some aspiring photographers or just photo editors in general when touching up your photos. And we'll be back with the next tutorial.